All right, everyone, today we'll be bringing you a real world review on the Glock 23 and 40 caliber. All right, this particular Glock model is the Gen 4. As you can tell, the finger grooves are a dead giveaway. All right, but nevertheless. Now, if you want a firearm that has more punch than Mike Tyson in the drunken bar fight, this is definitely for you. All right. If you want a firearm that has great stopping power and great in a self-defense situation, this is for you. All right. Now, get ready to hold on because the 40 caliber is going to be a wild ride in this Glock 23. All right. And I'll explain why in just a few moments. Okay. But let's get into some measurements. Overall length is 7.36. All right. Slide length is 6.85. The width at its widest point on the frame here is 1.26, and the slide width is 1 inch. Okay. The height with the magazine here in, which is a stock 13 round magazine, is 5.04 inches. So we'll just say 5 inches. All right. Now this particular model is the same size as the Glock 19. All right. So you do get the 4-inch barrel, and it still barely helps. All right. So it is a very punchy round. It is a very recoiling firearm. All right. A lot of recoil. Okay. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So I actually chose the lighter grain. Now this is 9mm, 115 grain. And this is 165 grain 40 caliber. And I chose the lighter of the 40 caliber ammo when I was buying the ammo. All right, before I went to the range, because they do have 200 grain, 180 or 185. So I went with the 165, just so we have some good comparables to note for future dates. All right. Now, with that being said, as you can see there, 40 caliber is a lot larger than the 9mm, and I would say if I had to put a number on it, it's going to be 40 to 50% more recoil than a 9mm. All right, so it makes a big difference as far as shot placement, follow-up shots, in a real life threat situation, especially when adrenaline kicks in and, that kind of thing, and your emotions is going. So you definitely want something that you can actually control, So if you're used to shooting 357s, 45s, 40 calibers, then it may not be a problem for you. All right. But definitely medium to larger hands are going to be able to grip this gun better than smaller hands. Smaller hands, you may have a little bit of trouble, reaching the trigger or comfortably, accessing the controls. All right. So it would just depend. You would have to, just try one out in the gun shop and see if you like the feel of it. Now, Gen 5 may make a difference for you because there are no finger grooves. So it may be a little bit more narrow in here on Gen 5. And then also the Gen 5 has ambidextrous controls. All right. So lefties, you're not left out in the cold. All right. Now, great versatility in the Glock 23 here. Like I said, the stock magazine is 13 rounds, but you can go +1, +2. And then, you have 16 round capability and 22 round capability. All right. So the heavier, the more rounds you go up to as far as your capacity, the heavier the gun will be. So just think about that if you're thinking about concealing the firearm as an everyday carry or as a CCW. All right. Now, while we're talking about versatility, you can convert the 23. You can actually convert it to a 357, all right, and a 9mm. So you just have to swap the barrels out, all right, and you'll be good to go. All right, so that's pretty cool. You can have some fun at the range, toying and going back and forth with the different calibers there. All right. Now, another thing to consider is the pricing of ammo. So currently the 40 caliber and 380 caliber are going around the same price. Okay. And I've seen some instances where the 40 and the 380 caliber ammo is double the 9mm ammo. All right. But it's definitely on average about $8 to $10 more per box, around 50 rounds in a box. But in some cases, it's double. All right, so just keep that in mind, because you do want to go to the range, especially for those of you that have 380s or 9s now, and you're thinking about stepping up to a 40 caliber. Is definitely going to be an adjustment period, so you're definitely going to need that range time. All right, so consider the price of the ammo in that. All right, now where does the Glock 23 come in at on our push your balls in scale? Now remember, it's for appendix carriers, and our rating for appendix carriers there. All right, so on the push your balls in scale, I would give the Glock 23 4 stars, just because I would think that if you would have this, you would go inside the waistband, maybe 3 or 4 o'clock position. But some of you guys may appendix carry. All right, so 4 stars there on the push your balls in scale. Now, one thing that I did notice is that I think the weight distribution is the factor of the felt recoil. Okay, and what I mean by that is you got lightweight polymer, right, on the bottom here in your frame, on your lower frame. You got your metal slide up top, all right, and all your components inside. Okay, so all of your weight is going to be here, but when you have a fully loaded magazine, okay, you're going to have quite a bit of weight in the magazine to counteract the weight up top. All right, but still, with that being said, it's still a lot of felt recoil or perceived recoil. Okay, it's definitely felt. All right, and that may be one of the reasons why, because that round produces a lot of recoil, and the inertia that it generates for most of your weight being on the top, it may add to it. Because I noticed that with the metal frame SIGs, like the compact and the full size SIG Sauers, they actually have less recoil, okay, in 40 caliber. All right, but it's a lot heavier firearm, so everything has a trade-off. Do you want to carry a heavier firearm just for the fact that it will make it have less recoil? All right, and then that's a different manufacturer as well. So just something to throw in there. I'll just try to give you guys my honest opinion and review when I do these real world reviews, and talk about things that some of the other reviewers or YouTubers or blog writers may not put in their articles or talk about. Okay, so it's that same Glock craftsmanship, all right, that we all know of. All right, now one thing Glock is known for is the cant on their firearm here. All right, some people, they don't like that feel of the Glock. All right, me personally, I prefer it because on my hands, it fits like a glove. So if you have thick hands in this thumb area, all right, it's almost like the gun just fits right in there. And I tend to have a harder time shooting firearms that are more straight up and down, especially if they're, they have heavy recoil. All right, so that actual cant just gives a natural point, and when the gun goes off, all right, it's easier to counteract the recoil movement just by the ergonomics. All right, so that's just me personally. All right, but even still, with that, the finger grooves, the good texture here, the larger frame, longer length, 4-inch barrel, it was still wow. My hands were hurting. My right hand, I'm right-handed, so my right hand was hurting after about, I'd say 15, 20 rounds. All right, and I got pretty strong grip, and I can get pretty good control of these firearms, and it was brutal. All right, so if you like your guns bouncing off course like a 2000 Ford Excursion, then this is for you. All right, But with all jokes aside, it's a very great firearm. All right, not too heavy. All right, so those that like larger firearms, 40 caliber definitely has a lot of stopping power. All right, and can neutralize several situations. They were very popular. I would say maybe 20 years ago. All right, it was a big craze about them 20, 30 years ago. But nowadays you don't hear too much about it. I guess just because all of the firearms are getting smaller, and you got firearms out there like the LCP Max that holds 12 rounds. If you buy the 12 round magazine, and you're talking about a weight of 10.6, 11 ounces empty. So it's kind of hard to, think about walking around with a firearm that's well over 2 pounds or 2 pounds once it's loaded versus a firearm that's, 1 pound when it's loaded. But, it's still a great option. Some of you guys may go hunting, or you may live in wooded areas, and have, a lot of animals nearby. So you typically would favor a larger caliber gun in those situations, So with that being said, that's about the only thing that I would do to upgrade it is the recoil spring and some sights. Everything else was fine. The slide control, slide release lever. This one was actually fine. Didn't feel the need for an extended slide release, so this one worked perfect. Magazine release was perfect. All right, it's just like the magazine release on the Gen 4 Glock 17, and it's pretty out of the way. You don't engage that while you're shooting, at least with my hands. So then I don't have to come offline. I can just drop the button. All right, but if you have smaller hands, you may have to adjust your grip to go ahead and drop your magazine there. All right, maybe a trigger, change out the trigger shoe, but that one is pretty good stock. All right, and then all Glocks break in after you shoot about 50 or 100 rounds through them. So in all, pretty great firearm, that Glock craftsmanship that we all come to know and love. And all right, guys, that's it for today. I'll see you on the next one.